Hello and welcome to Pizza 360. I'm Daniel Lee Perea. Joining us today in the PMQ booth is the Dough Doctor, Mr. Tom Lehmann. Maybe I should say Dr. Tom Lehmann, who recently retired from the American Institute of Baking with almost 50 years of experience there. He was in charge of the Experimental Baking Group and took an interest in pizza in 1967. Since then, he has been providing technical assistance to the pizza and related industries, and Tom is known as the pizza expert by the AIB staff and the Dough Doctor to the rest of us. He is world-renowned with his pizza expertise and consults pizzerias from the independents to the chains as well as wholesale manufacturers. Tom, thanks for coming to the show.
Daniel, thank you for having me.
Now, let's go to the beginning here. When did you get started in this business?
Actually, with regards to pizza, it was in 1967, and I can tell you a little bit about that. We had a local pizzeria in Chicago called Gino's, and the AIB staff used to go to Gino's periodically for a lunch, and after I joined the staff, we started looking at that pizza, and I said, rather than all of us going up there at one time, why don't we just bring Gino's Pizza to AIB? And so they said, well, we could bring it back. And I said, no, I'm thinking more like, why don't we make it ourselves? And they said, you can do that? And I said, well, I'm willing to give it a try. So I set out over about a 4 or 5 month period of time to replicate the Gino's Pizza. And lo and behold, we did it. And I think that may have been the last time that the staff ever went out for pizza.
So, let me ask you this. Do you feel like you're more of a pizza maker or a scientist?
I can answer that one real easy. I am a scientist. I make no bones about it. I can make pizza, but compared to what the other people do out there, I couldn't come nowhere near calling myself a pizza maker.
So you've been a regular writer for numerous publications about dough over the years. What's the one piece of advice that you feel you can't share enough of when it comes to dough?
That's easy. Time and temperature controls. That is the one thing that I find missing so much in the industry is people do not have an appreciation for the importance of time and temperature.
So what's your favorite type of crust?
My favorite type of crust. I don't care for a real thin cracker crust, even though I was raised on it. I'm originally from Chicago, but I think my preference is for more of a, think of it as a crispy New York style.
I'd say that's probably my favorite as well. What do you look for in a good pizza overall?
Overall, I look for interest. One of the problems that we've got today with pizza is that no matter where you buy it, you line them all up, and there's no individuality between any of them. They all look distressingly alike. We put the toppings on. We endeavor to have every bite taste just like the next bite, which tasted just like the last bite. And I fail to see where there's interest in that. It's very, very predictable. And some people want that. And if that's what you're looking for, that's fine. But I think today's consumer is looking for interest in their food. As they take a bite out of a pizza, one time they may get a little bit more garlic or a little less garlic, and so the flavor impact changes, which adds interest. In the wholesale industry, we call that layering of flavors. So it provides that unique flavor. It's not one constant flavor, it's just this constant changing flavor.
Now, what are some of the most common dough-making mistakes that you've witnessed over the years?
Most common dough-making mistakes. Probably it has to do with the way the dough is managed. If there's one very common mistake, and we're working away at it, we're chipping away at the stone, and I think we're making good progress, but when we make the dough for our pizzeria, we mix it, and then we bring it to the bench and we scale it, ball it up, put it in the dough boxes, and for many people, they do not cross-stack those dough boxes. As a result, you trap in the heat. And some people do not realize that dough is actually gaining temperature at the rate of about 1 degree per hour if just allowed to ferment. So we have to cool it down fairly rapidly. And what happens now is that if they do not cross-stack, the dough continues to grow, continues to ferment, And by maybe the next morning, you open the box up, and rather than finding maybe 6 individual dough balls, you find one large dough piece. This will not work.
Now, everybody's got a lot of opinions on certain topics, and I think this is one of them. Freezing dough. Should you freeze dough?
Should you freeze it? I've always said nothing good ever comes out of freezing anything. However, with that said, there are times and cases when you have to weigh the alternatives. The thing that we have to keep in mind is that all frozen doughs are not created equally. When we look at a large wholesale manufacturer, they use what we call blast freezing or cryogenic freezing. If they're using mechanical blast freezing, my advice, stay away from that. Use what we've got. We've got a walk-in freezer or even a reach-in freezer, -5, -10 degrees Fahrenheit. Put the dough into that, freeze it, and one of the things that we do is keep your dough as young as possible. Mix it cold. Use all cold tap water or even use ice water. And remember, a cold dough is going to be stiffer than a warm dough. If you want to produce a frozen dough that maybe you want to sell it, or maybe you're trying to open up an express store. And a store can be expensive because you have to recreate a kitchen in every store. But if you're going to open up an express store, maybe 600 square feet in a mall, all I need is an oven and a prep table. And I bring all my dough frozen that I produced at, I'll call it a commissary store, just one of my other stores in town. I freeze it. When you produce that dough, produce it cold. You like to see that dough probably no more than 75 degrees Fahrenheit. So whatever it takes you to get that dough at 75 degrees Fahrenheit, you have to do that. Then immediately take it to the bench, scale it, ball it, and after balling it, I normally like to say accumulate about 24 of them on the bench top. So about 2 dozen. As soon as you have 2 dozen of them, now we're going to start transferring them to the freezer. And what we're going to do is when you transfer them to the freezer, that is a dough ball. And we're trying to refrigerate to the core. Right there's the core in the middle. Well, that's in a circle. Look what happens when you change it into a puck shape. That distance becomes much less. So now the cross section becomes less. We can cool it faster, more efficiently. So change it into a puck shape. Place that on a very lightly oiled sheet pan and place that into your freezer. You'll need to do a little bit of work to find out how long it takes to freeze. But in most cases, it's going to take about 3 to 4 hours. Once they're thoroughly frozen, you can then repack them into a cardboard box with a plastic liner. And some people even go so far as they'll take a sheet of plastic and they'll wrap up each dough ball in that. So it's a little bit more work, but it's much cheaper than reinventing a kitchen at a remote location.
Well, Tom, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, sharing all this great marketing and baking advice. Hopefully, you'll come back yet again.
I look forward to the opportunity.
Well, for Pizza 360, I'm Daniel Lee Perea.